So the dirtiest bait and switch thing about learning guitar is how awesome minor chords are at first, right? The first two chords you probably learn and are good at are E minor and A minor. And everything's all fine and dandy, and those are the go-tos. And then eventually you run up against the beast of all time, which is F sharp minor, like this. 2 4 4 2 2 2, and it's like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna quit guitar because it's impossible to play. So we're gonna talk about minor chords and how you can make any single minor chord possible and better from really just kind of like a beginner's mindset all the way up to maybe some cool like jazzy type stuff. All right, even E flat minor. For all you E flat truthers out there, we're gonna go over it. Now, I think the easiest thing to do is to turn all of these into a shell voicing of a minor 7 chord, okay? So these could be two terms you've never heard of before. But let's go from that A minor, right here, again, which is open on the A string, 2 2 1 open, and we're really just playing an A, C, and E, okay? So you may have already done this where you lift your ring finger up, and it's an A minor 7. Which is essentially just adding a G to an A minor chord. So the first shell voicing we're going to use is going to look like this. Okay? Now, what a shell voicing means is like we're not playing all the notes. We're just playing the notes that we're kind of going for, the most important notes. So first of all, instead of playing 4 notes, A, C, E, and G, we're playing 3 notes. The 5th fret on the E string is an A, the 5th fret on the D string right here is a G, and the 5th fret on the G string is a C. Okay? So, we're actually missing an E, alright? That's the 5th of an A, B, C, D, E, but it's implied, so we got this shell kind of going on right here, alright? Now, again, the difference between them, you can tell there's a difference, right? Especially on an acoustic guitar like this Martin D18 that I just got. The open chords are going to ring out more, and they're going to have just that super cool vibe, but it's really, really important to be able to get to this shape because now it's a closed shape. And, you know, you could play the A string open in this example, but we don't want to. In fact, my middle finger is actually laying over the A string and muting it. And now this becomes a fully movable shape. So you can play every single minor chord in the world like this minor 7 chord, right? This would just be an A minor 7, and the root note is what's going to determine the name of it. A sharp or B flat, minor 7. B minor 7. Again, B minor is one that people kind of like find. And it's like, oh, do I really have to play like this bar chord here? No, you don't. Just get to that 7th fret and just throw that shape on it, okay? In fact, just like an interesting example, let's do something in like the key of G where we have like a G major and an A minor and a B minor, right? So G major, A minor, and now let's replace those with G, it's like, okay, we did the job, sounded pretty good. These are always adequate replacements. In any key, a minor 7 chord can take the place of a minor triad, a 3-note minor chord. This was beautiful about minor 7 chords. This is beautiful about this chord voicing right here, whether you're strumming it or playing it finger style, like a root, pointer finger, middle finger. Really great finger style chord just to kind of practice that too, right? So it's fully movable all the way, 12 different minor chords with this one shape, and playing it this way, we also add a new chord essentially into the key, right? The chord that usually gets overlooked the most is a minor 7 flat 5 chord. It's the 7th degree, right? If we just run through the chords in the key of G like I've done in other videos, we got G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and then usually back to G. A lot of times we'll skip that 7 chord, which is a half diminished chord, right? Which if we were to play it like that, if you look at it, it's 2 on the E string, that's your F sharp, skip the A string, 2 D, 2 G, 1 B. Guess what? If we just don't play that one right there, we end up with that same minor 7 shape that we've been working the whole time. So what we've done essentially is we can take a shell of that 7 chord and just add it as a 4th minor chord in the key. In any key, there are 7 notes, right? G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then G. the 2, 3, and 6 are where the minor chords are. So G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. That F sharp minor isn't really a full minor chord, but you can use this as just kind of like a tip to do that every time, right? Now the next thing is, all right, your question is, all right, well, I got that under my fingers, it sounds cool, but I still don't have that. I'm losing strings. I'm only playing 3 different strings, so I'm not really getting the full vibe. Maybe the volume of these shell voicings aren't competitive with the other chords in my progression. What I would say to you is make it my favorite minor chord, minor 11, okay? Still easier than an F sharp or an E string rooted minor bar chord, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do that same chord voicing, but now I'm gonna put my pointer finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. And this is gonna be another thing that you could use for any minor chord. This one doesn't work. I mean, you can still do this kind of as this to add that 4th minor chord in there, but I think it sounds really great on just the regular minor chords like the 2, 3, and 6. In fact, there's whole songs that I've played live that are like D minor, E minor, to A minor 11, right? Where it's just the 10th fret, the 12th fret, and the 5th fret. And I think really getting those 4 strings is like a great way to do it, okay? Now, if you wanted to just keep the same vibe with that minor 7 chord, you could really just play like this, because then essentially it's like that E string rooted bar chord, but we're just skipping the 5th here. So another way to do a minor 7 chord is just that same fret all the way through skipping the A string. And you can get the B string 5th fret in here. We're just adding notes that are already in this chord, right? We're not really changing the name of it. It's still a minor 7 chord. And then even the high E string right there. Okay, so these are just a few different things you could do with minor chords. Now, we're just playing the chord as a whole. Another thing that's really cool about this is it sets it up to maybe play interesting things in between where the chords are to kind of like explore a little bit. The one good thing about having that E string rooted minor chord shape that's hard to get tone out of is it lines up really well with the position of the pentatonic scale. Right? It just seems like the same shape, right? Or even just the full minor scale, right? It just is kind of based off this bar. But if we shift and have that middle finger rooted option, you can still get into that same shape, but from a different perspective. One thing I really like to do is focusing on the D and G strings here, and then thinking of this little 4-note mini scale that we have from either the minor scale or the minor pentatonic scale. You can do this with any of these chords. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish the chord as A minor 7, and then I'm going to play around in just these 4 notes. Then maybe go to the D. Back to A. And then again, E, D. And again, there's like a lot of stuff that you could do just from maybe adding these 4 notes from a lead standpoint into it, right? And also, once you start doing it this way, playing all the minor chords in a key as the same voicing, you start to get a much better handle on the interval, the space between where you're always going to find these minor chords. Just like that example that I just played. A minor, D minor, E minor, and again minor 11 for all these. 5th fret to the 10th fret to the 12th fret. It's like, all right, well this is the 6th chord in the key of C actually. And this is going to help me find the 2 chord and the 3 chord in the key of C. So I always know that, all right, well, from 5 to 10, that's going to be my distance from the relative minor into the next 2 minor chords, right? So I've got 1 minor chord, 5 frets higher, then 2 frets higher. Kind of screwed that last one up, but and that's going to work across strings, right? I actually want to keep all of the stuff that we're doing on just the E string, but just as an example, on the A string, if you were to do something like with a B minor, right, on the A string, I can always, all right, well, I don't know. Let's say we're not even thinking of like the key of D and the relative minor. I just know that the other 2 minor chords that go with this are going to be 5 frets higher from 2, and then 2 frets higher from there. So again, you're making these interval kind of connections, and then assuming that you're just starting on something on the low E string, it's like, okay, it's going to teach you where these notes are. Like if you have to find a C sharp minor, instead of being like, oh, I'm trying to recall the chord voicing from that C sharp, what do I do? Do I go to the 4th fret and then it's like that? Be like, hey, all right, I know that A is the 5th fret, A sharp, B, C, C sharp is the 9th fret. There's my C sharp minor. I could go 5 frets higher to get all those other chords, the other minor chords that help me out in the key of C sharp minor. Or I can just be like, maybe this is the 3 chord and the 2 chord and then 5 down from here. Right? So it really kind of increases your knowledge of just how to move around within keys, which is going to help your solo playing too. Just as far as like having an anchor to branch everything off from. So again, just a quick lesson. Definitely sign up for my Patreon for more, because I go in depth in a lot more of the chord voicings, as far as, you know, maybe like some minor 9 chords, minor 13 chords, so on and so forth. But yeah, just something that really helped me out a lot, because it's so much easier just to kind of keep this hand shape and then riff from there, just to kind of have a good starting point that you can always find pretty easily, so you'd never ever be afraid of any minor chord again. Again, for me, it was always that F sharp minor. I'd be like, I'm trying to get that, because I'd always get that fuzzy G string that you really gotta like power through. But yeah, that's what's up. That minor 7 shell chord voicing. Impress your friends.